Welcome to another episode of You Had to Be There, the podcast where we deep dive into the world of the music industry. I'm your host, Julia Gomberg. I'm so thrilled to introduce this week's guest, Katie Garcia. Katie is the co-founder of Bayonet Records, which is an independent music label that she founded with her husband, Dustin Payseur, who also happens to front one of my all-time favorite bands, Beach Fossils. Katie has been such an inspiration to me since the early days of my career, and if I had to sum her up in one word, it would literally just be cool, but that barely scratches the surface. Be sure to check out Katie's curated playlist alongside this episode, which you can find in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to follow along on Instagram at the letter U Had to Be There pod, and I'll catch you next time.
Hi, I am Katie Garcia. I live in New York and I run a record label called Bayonet Records.
I don't know how much you know, like, why I know who you are. I honestly was trying to remember. I've been like a big Beach Fossils fan for years. And then I was at some like vinyl like record fair or something. And I ran into Dustin and you were there. And then I was like, oh my gosh, his wife is even cooler. And then since then, I was sort of stalking your career a bit. And so here we are.
I love that. Was it a record fair? Was it the one in like East River Park, like the Brooklyn record fair? Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't remember how many years ago, but then we were on the same flight home from South by, and I overheard her talking to someone, and then I like recognized her, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, are you Katie?" So it all came full circle.
Yes, I remember that for sure.
Yeah,
I remember talking to you on that flight, and that was so sweet. And it also is very funny and always not confusing, I guess, but I'm always like extra flattered because like Dustin gets recognized, you know, he's a front facing musician and
right.
I'm more on the industry side. So when someone comes up to me and is like, "Are you Katie Garcia of music industry Bayonet Records fame?" I'm like, "Why, yes. How the heck do you know who I am?" I will gladly take the recognition.
Yeah.
So I'm very flattered and honored to be here today. And like I said before we started, I love to yap. So let's go.
I'm flattered as well. And yeah, this is really exciting. Can you kind of start off and talk a little bit about like what your relationship with music was like growing up?
Yes, I love talking about this. I mean, my relationship with music started at a very, very young age. I want to say I started my tape collection around when I was about 7. My uncles, who are actually my mom's like half brothers, so they always felt more like older brothers to me. Like they were in high school when I was like a kid, so I really looked up to them, and they had really cool music taste. I remember like I have so many vivid memories of going into their room when they were in high school, and they had like a framed vinyl for the Stone Roses album cover, which was so cool. And they had a framed photo of them, which is like I need to find this photo. I need to get my uncle to send it to me, like send me a picture of it, because it's such an iconic photo. It's the two of them. And like, mind you, they lived in Miami. They were skateboarders, super duper tan. It's the two of them with Robert Smith in the middle
my gosh,
with like his full lipstick, pale, crazy hair. In Miami,
no way,
with like palm trees in the background. It's like, so it's perfect.
That's amazing.
So like, I was always really fascinated with that. And then, you know, and I saw that they were really into cool music. And I always had a curiosity about a lot of the stuff they listened to. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I think it was like between the ages of like 7 and 10. I started getting, you know, like earning money for allowances. And I remember going to the record store and buying my first couple of CDs. And it was Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory.
Nice.
Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, and Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill.
Wow.
And the rest is history. And I still love all three of those records.
That's very sophisticated for that age. I'm
I
impressed.
know, honestly, like, now as an adult, my parents got divorced when I was 8, I want to say.
Mm,
So I was like, I was going through some things.
for sure. Yeah.
And so I think that, like, and I really mean this, I think that music was just this amazing outlet for me and this place for me to turn to and feel my feelings at a time
Yeah.
when my life as I knew it was in this like big transitional period. Even as a kid, I would read the liner notes of like CDs, and I was always so fascinated with labels and the
Mm.
names of the musicians and the lyrics. And yeah, I was just such a fan, and that always stayed with me through college and obviously still through to today. It's literally my
Sure.
life. But yeah, but then eventually when I got older and after I graduated college, even though I studied film, and I was working for a set designer, but we were doing a lot of sets for MTV at the time. So I realized that the reason I liked it was its proximity to music and not necessarily the carpentry and set painting part of it.
Right.
So then I was like, well, I should just do this. And I started emailing labels asking if they needed interns. And yeah, and then I got an internship at Capture Tracks. And
Wow. Yeah, and the rest, like you said, is history.
the rest is history.
I think it's also, I was just talking to someone else about internships recently and how different the scope of like what it was like to get an internship. More recently, I think it's become a lot more like rigid and like technical and like you have to go through a really big process. Whereas like years ago or not even that long ago, like you would literally just like email people. Like, how did you come across your internship?
Yeah, I mean, I exactly what you said. I emailed a bunch of labels I really liked that were based in New York. My roommate at the time, Connor, had actually gone to Capture Tracks to see if they needed interns and came back with a stack of records.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, whoa, I was like, this label puts out some cool stuff that I like. I was like, I wasn't even super familiar with this label. And they had only been around for about a year at that point. But I was like, oh, this is cool. And then and he didn't end up interning there. The girl who was the label manager at the time, she interviewed me and then asked me, she clearly was like very busy and like very overwhelmed and needed help desperately. So she asked if I could start on the spot. So I was
Wow.
like, sure.
Right.
So I just stayed the rest of the day, like helping her pack orders. And
Wow.
yeah. And then about 6 months later, she decided she wanted to move back home to Detroit. And by that point, I'd also already been begging Mike, the owner, to give me a job. And so it was just like the right place, right time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he was
Yeah.
like, "You want to be label manager?" So I was like, "Yep."
Wow. That's amazing. It wouldn't have happened if you weren't, advocating for yourself so much. So that's always really cool to hear when that kind of happens. Like timing
Yeah.
is, I think, a big part of it, but I also think, and maybe I'm like a little woo-woo about it, but like I think things happen for reasons and like align, when the opportunity is right for you. So that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I'm a little woo woo in that way too, for sure.
Yeah, this is a woo-woo positive podcast.
Yes.
Do what you will with that, listeners. But for people who are not like super familiar, with labels and maybe they know like the big ones, like can you kind of explain to someone what a smaller scale label does day to day?
Yeah, I mean, I love a small independent label. Also, just as a side note, I also feel a piece of advice I always give people who are wanting to get into the music industry is
Mm,
I often encourage them to start out trying to get an internship at a smaller label because I feel like you get to see how everything is done in such a
right,
hands-on way that I think at like a major label or even a bigger indie, you kind of get like siloed, helping
right,
out like one person who's like in one specific department. Whereas at a smaller label, it's usually just like anywhere from like 1 to 5 people working there, and you do everything.
Yeah, right.
From, finding the art, scouting the artists, doing the A&R, helping them develop on a creative level, helping grow their careers, planning out the marketing plan, putting the records into production.
Everything.
A little bit of everything. And it's a great way to learn. And I've really enjoyed, now that for the last year, I've solely been working at Bayonet, my own label.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved it. And I missed like being able to have a hand in a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's really impressive too. I mean, that, to your point, like that should be what an internship is, right? Like the opportunity to kind of dip your toes into like everything to see what you like and not like. And I think there's this misconception that when you go into music, like you have to know exactly what you want to do, but it's like, how can you know what you want to do if you're not given the opportunity to like see and experience those all these things that you may not even know exist. So I totally agree with that. And I'm very pro small independent labels too.
Yes. So then, I interned at Captured, then became the label manager there for 4 years. And then at the end of the 4 years, it just felt like a natural time to move on. My husband, Dustin, who is in Beach Fossils, who was on the label at the time, his contract was up with Captured, and I also just felt like it was time to make a change. He had been wanting to start a label of his own since he was a kid. And obviously, like, I had the label experience of how to run a label. So we just said, okay, let's do this together. And we decided we were going to start Bayonet. And then we reached out to Darius, who's one of the owners of Secretly Group, to see if Secretly would distribute our label to, small independent record stores and distribute it digitally and everything. And he said yes, but then he also said, well, what are you doing for work, like while you're setting up the label? Which was a great question, because I hadn't even thought about that. I was like, oh yeah, our company's like not going to be making money for the first year. We're just putting everything into production. I was like, I don't know, actually. This is a great question. And he was like, well, if you're interested, we would love to have you do part-time A&R for Secretly Group. At the time, they didn't really have like technically an A&R department. It was mostly just the 4 owners of the label group who would do A&R. But as the company continued to grow, they just had like less and less time to be super tapped in and really involved on that creative front, and needed a bigger team. And so that's kind of where I came in. So I started doing part-time A&R at Secretly Group at the same time that we were in the process of setting up Bayonet.
Wow.
Eventually, 2 things kind of happened at once, which was Bayonet continued to grow. We put out the Frankie Cosmos record, Next Thing, that did really, really well, and was kind of the record that put our label on the map in a lot of ways.
Wow.
And so that happened on one hand. And then on the other hand, at Secretly, I had signed Japanese Breakfast, and then after that, Phoebe Bridgers, and both of them started doing really well. Just felt like they also needed more of my time. So then Bayonet was kind of starting to get to a point where I could hire a label manager. So I hired a label manager to look after Bayonet, but I was still very much, tapped in with Bayonet. But then eventually I went full time at Secretly doing A&R there. So I was kind of doing both in tandem. It felt like having 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah. Wow.
But I made it work. It
basically was. Yeah.
But I made it work. And then I was at Secretly for 8 years, and I got approached by Arjun Pulajal, who was the president of Capitol at the time, to come do A&R for them.
Wow.
And at first I was like, no way. I was like, I'm never working at a major. I was like, hell no.
Right.
But I got to know him and Michelle, who was the CEO at the time, Michelle Jubilier.
Mm.
And I just really liked them. And I could tell that they genuinely cared about good music and had good taste.
Mm.
I told them what my concerns were, and I told them what I would need in order to, that I needed to make sure that I would have the time to develop these artists, because
Right.
a lot of the artists that they were like pointing to as like, oh, because you worked with this person, they were so successful and whatever. And I was like, yeah, but like it took, 2 or 3 albums to get there. These weren't, necessarily overnight successes, quote unquote.
Right.
So, and they were like, we totally get that, and we want to give you that freedom.
Mm.
They made me an offer I just felt like I couldn't say no to. So yeah, they asked me if I wanted to be vice president of A&R for Capitol.
Wow.
I said yes. And it was a really tough decision because I had also just gotten promoted at Secretly to be head of A&R for the publishing company.
Oh, wow.
So it was, I think ultimately I did the right thing. And because I learned so much at Capitol, and it gave me just such a different perspective on the music industry. And the knowledge I gained there is not something I could have just like read in a book.
Right.
So I think it was a really, really great experience. And, but then now for the last year, I've just solely been doing Bayonet, my own label, which is full circle because that's kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah. That's so
It was
cool.
never my intention to have these side quests.
Yeah.
But they were side quests I felt I couldn't say no to.
For sure. And what an interesting position to be in, to have a really big label come to you and see what you've done and be like, we want you. I just feel like I don't get to hear a lot of those stories, where that's just really, for lack of better word, badass. I just think there's something about, especially as a female in music, it's really, really inspiring to hear that. And I mean, your work speaks for yourself clearly in that, and it worked out. What was it like? Yeah, early on, I guess I'm just going to be biased as a big Japanese breakfast fan. What was it like in terms of the artist development and her career? What was sort of the trajectory of her success when you were working with her?
Oh, that's a really good question. I found Michelle's music just on Pitchfork. They had posted a song from Psychopomp, and I just fell in love with the song, and it was so just charming, and I don't know, it had this lightness and this energy to it that I really liked. It was so, I could just tell that there was something there.
Yeah.
And then I met up with her, and she coincidentally happened to live in Greenpoint.
Oh.
And which is where I also lived. And it's also where the Secretly office used to be.
Oh.
So we met up for lunch a block away from the office. And then we ended up talking for 3 hours, no joke.
Wow.
And I don't know. Yeah, I just really, from the beginning, you just kind of, people will say star quality, or I don't know, and it was just, we just had this really natural connection, and I could see her drive and her ambition. We all went to South by Southwest that year, and she was playing, and that was where I kind of got everybody on board with signing her. The whole team got to meet her. She played at the Secretly showcase that year. We did karaoke together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I also helped convince her now amazing booking agent to work with her, because he was like, I'm thinking about it. And he saw her live and spent time with her, and I was like, how to do it? And he was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was such a fun trip. And and then we came back from that. We partnered with Yellow K, the label who had originally put out Psychopomp, and kind of re-released it as a co-release. It was just every record, from Psychopomp to Soft Sounds, to Jubilee, like every record was just like brick by brick, growing the project, continuing to play bigger venues, do more interviews. She was touring like crazy, opening for the right artists. I remember she went on tour with Slow Dive, which was so cool.
Wow.
She opened for Mitski, who was also like on the rise, but like at a slightly like bigger place in her career.
Right.
Yeah, and then I think when Jubilee and Crying at H Mart came out at the same time, there was like this perfect storm of both things just being so well received. And we really tried to cross-pollinate that hype and that momentum to keep pushing her forward. And it worked. And, now she's, an international superstar.
Yeah, really. She is.
And I'm so proud of her. And she's just the coolest, sweetest person. And no one is like more deserving of success than she is.
I love that. It also like makes sense that you guys clicked so well because I like think both of you are so cool. So it makes sense to me that you would hit it off.
Well, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, we definitely did.
And it's also like it's cool to hear like, I don't know, I'm sure you're 100% this type of person where it's like growing up, I always wanted to be that friend that tells my friends first about like an artist that I think is really going to make it and to be able to do it on a scale where you're actually making her career, like that must be such another level of like just feeling really good.
Definitely.
That's amazing. And I know you mentioned like you were at Captured Track when Dustin was. Is that how you guys met?
Yeah, that's how we met. I was an intern and he was coming to pick up a box of the very first piece of music he put out as Beach Fossils. It was the Daydream 7-inch. And he came to the office to pick it up and I gave him the box. And that was the first time I met him. And I hadn't even like listened to his music yet.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And because I was also still so new to Captured that I was getting to know the roster. And even at that point, like the label was really prolific. They had put out like a ton of stuff already. So yeah, I remember like meeting Dustin and then we met and then he like added me on Facebook and then I invited him to like go to a show or to hang. I was like, oh, just like, what are you up to? And we ended up going to a show together. But before I even went, I was like, hold up, I got to listen to this guy's music because
right.
Sucks. Like I can't do this.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh no, like, what if it was like bad? Obviously it's not. But
yeah. But I listened to it and I was like, okay. I was like, I can work with this. I like this.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then we ended up going on a date and now we're married and we have a child.
And you have a child. That's like seriously so I keep saying cool, but like because it is cool. It's just like what a dream. And yeah, I was gonna say like not to mention like you guys you made your own label and you had a child and now he tours a lot. He's like in Asia right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, he just finished the Asia part of the tour. But yeah, they're opening for Slow Dive in Australia.
That's amazing. And how is that? Like, how is balancing a family, with a daughter, you being a music exec and then a touring musician?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. I mean, my in-laws are here right now, which is like,
right.
Helping, yeah, which is amazing, which has been a massive help. When Dustin goes on tour, I'll usually reach out to either my parents or his parents to see if it's an extended amount of time. Like if it's 2 weeks or honestly even 3 weeks, like I'm probably okay on my own. But if it's anything longer than a month, yeah, it's tough. And it's like it's also given me so much respect for single parents. Because it's really hard to parent by yourself, and to work and get them ready for school and everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we have our ways and we have our community here too. Luckily, my husband's sister lives here, my sister-in-law, and we're really close with her and she is super close with our daughter. So she's also always here to help. And we also have his cousin Juliet lives here, and his
Oh, that's
cousin
amazing.
Tommy, and his cousin Chloe. So like we have like a pretty big like family unit here, which is nice.
Yeah.
They definitely will like help when we ask for help. So it's cool. So I think basically the moral of the story is like it definitely takes a village, and yeah, it involves asking for help when we need it.
Yeah.
That's how we make it work. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is so important. Like asking for help, no matter what the capacity is a huge part of being successful, honestly, and not
Huge.
losing your mind.
It's huge. And I used to be kind of I used to always like feel bad asking for help, but then my therapist told me once, when you allow people to help you, you allow them to show you how much they love you. And like
Oh,
I feel like I think about that all the time now. It's something that's like really, really stayed with me.
yeah.
And yeah, and I try to, in a way do that for the musicians on my label. I try to help them
Right.
and
Right.
help them in their careers in a totally different way, and show them that I care about them and I care about their music and the longevity of what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. That's like not, I don't think especially at bigger labels, just from my own experience, like that isn't always the case. And I think it really makes a difference. It's like you can tell whether the artist consciously knows it or not. Like there's just when someone really has your back, like it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And also, like, total side personal note, I relate to that. I'm having trouble asking for help. Like, I tore my ACL last summer
Oh
biking in
no.
Greenpoint, actually.
Oh,
So,
those
like,
big potholes.
exactly, that's literally what happened. Yep. But like, yeah, having to ask for help for the first time because I like physically couldn't do things, I think was huge
Yeah.
for me. Like, and now it's
Mhm.
really translated into just so many aspects of my life of just like has so much to do with just advocating for yourself, also, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
So, in terms of like the music scene, were you out and about seeing shows like while living in Greenpoint? Like,
Mhm.
how would you like discover new music, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely going to shows, getting demos, finding things. Well, early on, this is gonna age me like crazy, but early on, um, honestly, MySpace.
Mm. You're not the first guest to mention MySpace, so you're
Okay,
good.
okay, cool, 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 cool. Yeah. So yeah, when I was at Captured, and even just like before I was even working in the music industry, when I was just like a person who liked new music,
Hmm.
I feel like I would go to different artists' MySpaces and look at the other artists that they had in their top eight. So
Oh,
I would just say, like, oh, okay, if I like this artist, I'm probably going to like the other artists that they're recommending.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, which is funny because it's actually the very, very first artist I ever signed was Widow's Peak. And that's kind of how we ended up working with them, as they were in Kevin Morby's top eight on
Oh my
MySpace. And I was
gosh.
like, whoa, I was like, this is cool. What is
It's
this?
also so interesting because this is like pre-algorithm. This is like the real organic way of like,
Yes.
it's interesting.
Yes. And then we ended up signing Widow's Peak to Captured, and they're still working together, which is awesome.
That's
And
amazing.
they're Molly and Rob are super sweet, really talented people. And yeah, so MySpace was early on like music discovery tool, I guess. And then I don't know, it's like it's such a mix now. I would say we get demos sent to us through our email that we definitely like comb through from time to time.
Hmm.
There's a lot more volume of them now, so it's harder to keep up with, but we try our best. Having a friend recommend something to me, someone whose taste I trust.
Right.
Seeing an opener at a show that you just
Mm.
kind of keep, have your eye on.
Definitely.
Getting managers will send us stuff, lawyers will send us stuff. Randomly finding something on on Spotify.
Yep.
Actually, that's actually how I came across Yule. It
Oh.
it was in my Discover Weekly.
Oh, there you go. I guess the algorithm is
Not to
good.
be like a corporate shill for Spotify, because, I have my issues with them too. Don't get
Sure,
me
sure.
wrong, but yeah, but that is actually how I found Yule. I was listening to my Discover Weekly, and I was just like, whoa, what is this?
Huh.
And then we reached out, and yeah, and then we signed Yule, and it was
That's so
a
cool.
really important artist for Bayonet and for the label. So it's always such a mix. It is
Yeah.
basically my
Yeah,
answer.
it is.
It starts out one way, like on the, and it's still kind of organic now. It's just different. It's just recommendations from lawyers, managers, friends, booking agents who are like, hey, I started working with this band, I think they're cool, check it out.
Right, right. And then determining like what you're, what you want to kind of pursue or explore further. It's really, it sounds like a lot of based on intuition and just
Yeah.
having good taste, I think too
Yeah.
helps. But yeah, but like even when you were saying like with an opener, I think that's an underrated mention because that's always something I like kind of pay attention to. And I'm at a show, I like to go to the opener and just see like it's so telling of like how the crowd responds to openers a lot. And sometimes it's so like you're just so surprised by like the crowd that they pull. And then you're like, oh, well, I wonder. Then, like, a month later, they have their own tour. And it's like, it's just cool to see it
Yeah.
from that organic perspective.
Yeah.
And then I guess you kind of talked about this a little bit, but in terms of just like doing so much beyond like asking for help, like where are those moments in your life like you find balance or like have that moment of like grounding yourself a bit?
Like how so? Just free time?
Yeah, it could be, or like maybe there's like a song you listen to, or like something that kind of just like reminds you of like this is the journey that I came from in a way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean there are definitely certain songs or certain things that just remind me of home in Miami where I grew up, and
Mm,
I'm Cuban, so I feel like anytime I hear Cuban music or salsa or
mm,
like Celia Cruz is a big one for me, and I think most Cubans. Even actually, Dustin is also Cuban, and his grandfather has an incredible salsa band in,
wow.
yeah. And so stuff like that is it's just like soul nurturing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like there's just this pull that feels like almost innate, but I love that. I love listening to that.
Yeah.
Um,
And what an
and
amazing connection that is even further for you and Dustin. I love that.
yeah, no, I know. It's crazy when I found out he was also Cuban. I
Yeah,
was like,
it is
you've got to
crazy.
be kidding me. Especially because I grew up in Miami where like every second or third person is Cuban. There's such a
Right.
big Cuban community there. And so it was funny that, yeah, I come to New York, I'm like connect with this like indie musician, and then we go to a show, and I'm it's a show, so there's like a ton of other people there, and I'm there with my friend Renee. I introduced Renee to Dustin, and I'm introducing Dustin to Renee, and I'm like, oh, Dustin, like this is like my homie Renee, and he's Cuban also, and he's also from Miami, just like me, and like we go back. And Dustin was like, yeah, I'm Cuban too. And
Oh
Renee
my
was
gosh.
like, what the fuck? Like we were like, what the? And um
That's
and yeah,
wild.
and so it was so funny. And it is really nice to have that cultural connection because like I don't have to explain to him like what tostones are, or
Right.
like he already knows. Like he grew up eating the same food that I did. And
Oh, yeah.
so
It's like a piece of home.
it is like a piece of home. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, being with Dustin feels like home.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. Two people I admire so much. I'm like, oh, that's so nice to hear. Um, in terms of also like, I'm just thinking about like culture and identity. being a woman in music, like what has your experience been with that? I know that's kind of a vague question, but like anything, I don't know, any challenges or anything that you felt has like shaped your world in music?
Yeah, the music industry, I think, it's no secret that it is a male dominated industry. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to give like one specific
Yeah.
example, but I've definitely had instances throughout my career where I've really had to going back to like advocating for yourself.
Mm.
I've really had to not only advocate for myself, but just like advocate for my artists and,
Yeah.
and by certain decisions that I think are going to benefit the artists in the long term. I think being a woman in the industry, sometimes it can be easy for people to write you off
Mhm.
or be like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
So, so it can. And I feel like I will say I did experience this more earlier on in my career in
Mhm.
music, especially since I was someone who didn't have like things to point to at the time. But look, I did these things, so you can
Right.
trust me. Whereas like now I have like a bit, people may know who I am or like know the things I've worked on, and
Right.
so they might be more open to listening to my ideas. But it shouldn't take that for people to take your ideas seriously. Even at Bayonet, like our interns have been super involved in all of our campaigns.
Mhm.
And we ask them to sit in on our weekly meetings. We ask them to give any ideas that they have in terms of, marketing, where we want to hear their ideas and we want to implement them. And we have. And
Amazing.
I also think I have, because I was in their same exact position.
Right.
I
Right.
know exactly what that's like. I know what it's like to come up in the industry. And so I try my best to help people in those same positions, because I know what it's like, and I know what it's like to kind of, yeah, feel like you're not being heard, and that
Yeah.
sucks. So yeah, I have for sure experienced some not great experiences in
Yeah.
industry, dealing with a lot of shitty men, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Which that's like always comes up in when I interview like women in music, and I always like, can want to counter with saying like, no, it's not all men. Obviously, you're
Not
married to
all
a
men,
man
for
in
sure.
a
Not all
wonderful man.
men, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's still, and it has, I will say it's gotten better,
yeah,
but it's still there and it still exists.
for
And
sure. And I think it kind of speaks to a larger, like more generalized issue. Like gatekeeping is such a thing in this industry. So I love that, like, you're kind of shattering that, like,
I
because
hate that.
yeah, like, what is the point? Like, it's just to
Yeah.
make someone feel superior, I guess, in a sense. But from
Oh,
my experience, I think there is this, like, from a label I worked at, like a men's club, in a sense of like, oh, like we don't know what's going on inside that room. And like that shouldn't, if we're all working for the same goal, like that's so counterproductive. It doesn't make sense to me. And yeah,
yeah.
I personally am a big proponent of like equal opportunity, whatever that, however that applies to whatever situation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I think it's cool too that you like sign so many female artists. I think,
Mhm.
is that intentional, or is that just like how you were kind of what you were drawn to?
It's funny, like our roster is definitely like mostly like femme, or like honestly a lot of trans artists too
Mm,
on our
wow.
roster. So we don't have a lot of just like regular dudes. And it's really just, it just happened to be that way, like we obviously want to have a very diverse roster. That's
Yeah.
something we think about a lot. But ultimately, it comes down to whose music we like and who we connect with as a person, and whose vision we feel like we would be really compatible with.
Yeah,
So,
no, that makes a lot of sense.
mhm.
It's not necessarily, yeah, you're like open-minded about it. And I think
Mhm.
that's amazing though. I want to like keep looking at the roster more. I'm like now curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any goals or things that you're hoping for Bayonet, like in the future as you continue?
Yes, I want to keep growing the company.
Mm,
I think the label right now is in a really exciting phase. We have a lot of really, really promising artists on the label with so much potential for growth.
Mm.
So I just want to keep pushing that forward and figuring out ways and whether it's through like partnership of some kind or funding. And, I'm kind of like looking into any and all options right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just like growing the label in the best way that I can. I've been really like careful with it because I don't want to make the wrong move. But
Right.
yeah, I think that's like the next step. The next step is to keep growing the label. I want our artists to be nominated for Grammys.
Yeah.
I want our label to be competing with bigger indies for the same artists. I want to, just like show people that we have the team and the capacity to develop artists and to really take them to the next level. So
Yeah.
those are kind of my future goals.
Those are great ones, and I'm excited for what's to come. It's an exciting time. I mean, it always sounds like an exciting time for you, to be honest, but but I love that this is like yours,
Yeah, I do too, and it's been great, and I definitely am super grateful to the whole staff of Bayonet, Evan, who's the label manager, and Sam, who's head of marketing, and Liza, who's the warehouse manager. Are all just so good at what they do. I feel so confident in their abilities, and I just feel really grateful to work with all of them because we all really, really care about what we're doing, and I think that's super important when working anywhere. Really, it's like you want people to care about what they're doing. So
definitely, it just sounds exciting, like a really inspiring environment to be in. What piece of advice would you give to someone trying to sort of like figure out what they want to do in this industry?
Definitely starting out trying to either get an entry-level position or, I mean, there's not even that entry-level position at a small indie label doesn't really exist. It's just a position at a small indie label or getting an internship at a smaller indie label, just because I feel like you will get the best bird's eye view of how everything at a label operates versus starting out at a bigger company. I think it just gives you so much more perspective. And, in order to do your job the best, once you do move on to, let's say, like a bigger company, you need to know what to expect of the other people on your team and what their roles are supposed to be. Like, in order to hold them accountable and make sure that everybody's doing the best they can do. And so that's why I always recommend for people to do that. And then also like working at a smaller label or interning at a smaller label will give you the chance to figure out what it is you want to do.
Right.
If you really enjoy doing marketing or socials or, being the person that ties everything together, puts things into production, has that kind of front-facing relationship with the management, or doing more logistical minded things and coming up with like cool creative packaging ideas or, I think having that time to explore all of the different avenues you can go down is a great place to start.
Yeah, super well said. And I think, not to be like negative, but I think it's also a good way to figure out what you don't want to do too.
Totally.
I mean? Yeah. You can immediately like, that's so important too, because you don't want to end up like thinking you got your dream job and then you're doing social media and you're like, wow, this sucks. I hate this.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really great advice. Really inspiring. Well, awesome. I'm going to end the episode with a question that I like to ask everyone. If you had to create an album title for your music career so far, what would you name it?
Oh, this is okay. Hold on. Maybe something like Caregiver, because I care and I give out of my time to those I care about, including the musicians I work with.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah. And also just in my life in my actual regular life, as a mom,
Yeah.
I do have a strong maternal instinct that I've had even before I had my daughter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like even even the artists that I didn't end up signing, a lot of them I ended up becoming good friends with. So like
Oh,
Shamir and Lindsay from Snail Mail used to call me and Dustin mom and dad. We were kind of like this, like all of the like younger musicians, like parental figures in a way.
I can see that for sure. I love that. I also was at one of those shows where Snail Mail opened for Beach Fossils, I think. So
Yes.
yeah, it was really good.
Lindsay. I love Lindsay so much.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers. Well, I love that. And I think you just seem like a really caring and passionate person in everything you do, which is it's not always like easy to find. And I think that speaks to your success on so many levels.
Thank you.
And it also just sounds like a cool like album that I would read about on Pitchfork, to be honest.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm sure somebody's
It's
had
out there.
Yeah, I'm so curious. Caregiver.
Yeah, I'm curious too now.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple songs, but album.
Album, yeah.
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 Huh. Very
All right,
interesting.
keep that in your back pocket.
Put that in my back pocket. Maybe when I make music of my own.
Yeah.
Caregiver.
Do you ever you make your own music?
I have a little bit. It's been a while, and it's very, very like lo-fi. It's kind of like I feel like anytime I end up playing music on my own, and also I'm like, when I say play music, quote, I put it in quotes because I'm like also still learning how to even like I've been trying to learn how to play bass.
Cool.
So, but it's funny because every time I try to come up with a bass line, it's like always kind of gothy. So it's like I feel like inadvertently, but then it's also like kind of messy in this way because I am not, I'm still learning.
Right.
So it lands somewhere. It's like it's kind of like gothy beat happening or something, or gothy like something that would have been on like K Records in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've only like have like a handful of songs. I did a couple songs with my friend Donna and my other friend AK, and then I've like sung backup on quite a few Beach Fossil songs.
No way.
I have a Discogs page. I got a Discogs page.
Oh my God.
Credits to my name.
I gotta check this out. Which songs were you on?
Oh my God, I don't even remember now. Yeah, mostly on Clash the Truth. Which songs? Oh yeah, 4 credits on Clash the Truth.
Wow.
I have other like non-singing credits. Like, I'm listed as like an A&R for Matt Rogers' record I worked on, his Christmas album. And then I'm also listed as a producer for the Tranza compilation that I worked with on through Red Hot, which came out last year.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that's on there too. I didn't even realize that had gotten added to my Discogs page, but kudos to whoever on Discogs put that up there for me because
they're on top of it. Damn.
They're on it. Yeah, it's really funny.
Well, maybe someday, your new album that you titled will come out on there.
I know. Finally put some. Yeah, I've been toying. It's Bayonet's 10-year anniversary this year, actually. And
oh, wow. Congrats.
thank you. We're doing a bunch of stuff towards the end of the year. We're doing like 3 different shows. We're going to do a cassette tape that has a bunch of like demos from artists on the roster. Yeah, we're going to put this cassette tape out for the 10-year anniversary, and we'll have it for sale at the 10-year shows, and we'll have it for sale online.
Oh, amazing.
But like, yeah, one of the things I was toying with, because a few people have asked me to put out this song. I wrote a song with Dustin for my sister when she turned 18. That's just called Year 18. And the song is like, it's so short. It's like barely like 2 minutes long, and it just eats the same thing over and over again. But I've been thinking about like, maybe I should put that on the 10-year comp, just like funny. Yeah. So maybe that'll get thrown on there. We'll see.
I love that. I'm going to keep my eye open for all of that. I want to attend a show or whatever I can do. That sounds great.
Yeah, I'll email you like after this with like more details. It's going to be really fun.
Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. Like, congratulations on all your success. And I think one thing that people often don't do enough, like in this industry, is like take a moment to really recognize their wins, because you're always kind of on to the next thing. And so like I always try to make that sort of the goal with this podcast, to really just like give my guests like the time to reflect. And I found it really inspiring. So thank you for sharing.
Oh my gosh. No, this was inspiring to me. Thank you so much for having me. And it was great chatting with you. I'm happy to chat anytime. And yeah, thanks so much.
Us head first into the depths unseen. Lets me know that it's alright.